States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please remain standing for a moment of silence for Roger Town, husband of Susan Town, speech pathologist at Clinton Elementary School. Thank you. Okay, I'd like to open the school committee meeting for Monday, December 5th, 2022. Could I have a motion to approve the bills?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Being none, all in favor? Thank you. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes for the school committee meeting November 7th, 2022?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second. Any discussion? Being none, all in favor? Okay. Stand, hand it over to Dr. Meyer.
All right, so as we've been doing this year, we want to bring back our celebrations, including the students and staff of the month, and this month we also have our recognition of our Adams Scholars. So to start us off, I want to invite Clinton Elementary Principal Silvio to come on up, and we'll start with the elementary.
Am I on? Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Our staff of the month is who we are going to recognize first. Elaine Carter is our school psychologist. She was nominated by several of her colleagues for her work ethic and commitment to each student that she evaluates. She is recognized as a great listener who is knowledgeable, passionate, supportive, and willing to offer specific strategies to support teachers while they're supporting students. Her colleagues recognize her professionalism, positivity, and always seeing the good around her. One nomination noted she has a willingness to make the impossible happen. It was also noted how dedicated she is to her work and is always at school and present no matter what else she has going on or what list she has behind the scenes. This is noticed and echoed by the administration. So Elaine, could you please come up? Our student of the month at the elementary school is a third grader in Mrs. Lemansky and Mrs. Parker's third grade class. His name is David Gilchrist. David was recognized by his teachers for his kindness and willingness to help others and include them. He is always kind and the type of kid that makes room for everyone no matter what he's doing. He is never rude or mean-spirited. He excels in the classroom and is a student who cheers for others. His teachers noted that he has a special way to help and encourage others in his class versus just giving the answer so that they can learn how to do it too. David is a student who is willing to jump in and do anything teachers ask and always has a positive attitude towards school. We are excited to recognize our student leader, David Gilchrist.
And now to recognize the staff and students from the middle school, Principal Harder.
So the staff member chosen from Clinton Middle School tonight is Mr. Notaro. He's been with us for a number of years, but started this year as a new position in the middle school called Dean of School Culture. He has embodied that position in a way that we never thought possible when we started by designing it. He has spanned both supporting students and being really proactive, getting out there, debriefing with students, and working really well with administration and teachers. And in addition, he has pushed our culture. He's collaborated with our PBIS system, he has developed some really fun activities for kids, and he has enlivened what we do each day. Most notably, last week he led our students in watching some of the World Cup during lunch, which was extremely loud and very well received. And that just embodies some of the work that he's done this year. So thank you, Mr. Notaro.
Congrats, thanks, Mike. Thanks, Mike. It works. Congratulations.
And as part of his leadership, he collaborates with us to identify and support our Students of the Month. So he will present those.
All right, so again, we have a Student of the Month from each grade level. I'll start with 5th grade. I don't think she's here because she was absent today, but our 5th grade student is Erica Lowen. Erica's smile could light up a room. Her positive attitude is contagious to those around her. Not only does she take her schoolwork seriously, she's also responsible, kind, and helpful to her classmates. She meets all of the criteria of what it means to be a Gale. So Erica Lowen is our 5th grade representative. For 6th grade, we have Eva Laganelli. Eva is such a role model. She always tries her best and gives 100% effort. Eva is always willing to help others with a smile on her face. She is kind and respectful to all. A true leader. Keep it up, Eva. You are going places. I'll jump in. Congratulations. Congratulations. For 7th grade, we have Gabriel Montenegro. Gabe helps other students without being solicited. He takes schoolwork seriously and is a very dedicated student. He advocates for himself and his peers. Gabe is a creative student that is always polite and appreciated. So, Gabriel Montenegro. For our grades 7 and 8 team, we have Gabriella Fontanez. Gabriella shows consistent conscientiousness towards her schoolwork. She always demonstrates respect towards everyone. Gabriella is on task at all times in class. She's highly creative, takes pride in her work, and is very diligent at completing her classwork and homework. We are proud to nominate her as our Student of the Month for the 7 and 8 team. And our 8th grade student is Sean Blaze. Sean is a student that has a big personality with big results. He's always on top of his work, asking for help and advocating for his educational needs when he needs it. He is friendly to all his peers and is beyond deserving of the Grade 8 Student of the Month. So Sean Blaze.
Okay, now for our high school staff and student of the month, Principal Cermak.
Good evening, everyone. Just now, my biggest fear was I reached into my jacket to grab my glasses, and I was afraid I broke one of the arms off. I'd be up here just kind of holding them. Sorry. Okay. We have one student and one staff. I will start with the staff of the month first. The November staff member to be recognized is Miss Michelle Elliott. Miss Elliott's recognition of the Day of the Dead as a means for students to acknowledge the passing of loved ones was both culturally and emotionally significant. Beyond this, Miss Elliott is the most kind, friendly person. Miss Elliott will always be there when you need her. Thank you, Miss Elliott. Come on up, Michelle. Congratulations. Our student of the month is Rose Okendo. Rose goes above and beyond to help her ESL peers in English class, especially during group work. She never needs to be asked to help. She jumps right in. Her selflessness and kindness is unmatched. Thank you, Rose, nominated by a teacher. Rose, come on up. Congratulations. Next, we have the John and Abigail Adams MCAS Award winners. These are students who have achieved or scored above advanced in one or more categories, math, ELA, or science. When I call your name, please come up to receive your award. Victoria Barreto. Kellen Blaylock. Hudson Bombard. Owen Brydell. Brianna Burgos. Alexander Chernard. Landon Colangelo. Cameron Cronin. Madison Denson. Tiago Dos Santos. Tiernan Ford. Braden Fournier. Allison Gareffi. Ryan Hoke. Brooke Janda. Natalia Lamont. Nicole Lizardo. Roger Maldonado. Natalia Martin. Allison McKenzie. Joseph McNamara. Elian Montas. Evan Morrison. Braden O'Leary. Kimberly Pereira. Ava Rapoli. Ella Rapoli. Carlos Velasquez. Liana Waterman. Elijah Yurkovic.
All right, congratulations to all our John and Abigail Adams Scholars. That concludes our celebrations portion for this meeting. Once again, I guess congratulations to everyone who was recognized tonight. Thank you. Proud of all your accomplishments. Mr. Chair, you have it for public comment.
Anyone here for public comment? All right. Now, before we go on to the rest of the meeting, we will not be offended if... She's already leaving. Please don't feel...
You're welcome to stay for the business portion of the meeting, but we won't be offended if you choose not to.
Mr. Notaro, sit down. Just give it back.
Yeah, give it a couple minutes.
No. I always forget public comment. Steve brought that up.
You probably don't have to now. It can turn down.
Maybe just turn it down a little, leave it on, so if some, otherwise this can get hard to hear. There's no house mic. Oh, do we need to move that? Can I move that one? Do you need it for? Yeah.
Oh, we can just
Got it.
shift one over.
Did you turn it off? I turned it off, yeah.
All right. Do we... Am I on here? This, they working? Okay.
Yeah, you're on.
Do we have a student rep here?
Come on up.
Should have figured the only one left.
Do we still have sound through there, or should we turn it up? Do we turn it up a little more? I don't know, but as people can hear.
Testing one.
Testing, yeah.
I hope this is on. Good evening, everyone. The Student Council put on another successful Spirit Week before the Thanksgiving break. The goal was to engage as much of the school community as possible while getting donations for the school pantry. This year, we reached around 800 pounds of food and 1,500 diapers went to our food pantry, which serves the CHS community. We have some other projects lined up in the coming weeks, so make sure to follow our social media accounts on Twitter and Instagram, which is CHS.co. And thank you all, and have a wonderful night. Is there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for all your good work.
All right. Come on up, Robin. You're ready. Making this easy.
At the middle and the elementary school level, term 1 has just concluded. So the teachers have been busy preparing report cards under our new Infinite Campus system, and I have a little bit of anxiety about how it's going to go. I've been putting in my grades, and I found that some parts of it are really easier. Some sections of it are not so easy. I think it's just getting used to. In 10 years, we'll know exactly how to navigate all the different, the wording, you know. And at the middle school, teachers have been busy reaching out to parents and scheduling parent conferences for Thursday night and Friday during the day. Other than that, it's been rather quiet, and the executive board will have their annual holiday Christmas meeting at O'Connor's this Wednesday. And then we're in, the home stretch of like 3 good weeks of teaching, and then a good break for
Maybe
the
a little break,
holidays.
yeah.
So, happy holidays to all of you, because I don't think we have another meeting.
No?
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Rob.
Happy holidays.
Thank you. Is anyone here from the PTA?
I don't think so.
None of them? CPAC, LPAC, none of them? All right. Dr. Meyer, back
All
to you.
right, thank you. All right, we have a few financial matters just to go over. The first one is the FY22 end-of-year report. We are ready to submit our FY22 end-of-year report. I put some parts of that report in your packet. It's not the whole report. The whole report it's a giant file that's got all kinds of different schedules that you have to go through. These are just some of the basic ones, though, and they kind of capture everything. The more the summary ones, I guess. So the first one, you should have, it says like expenditures, all types, and expenditure summary, FY22, all fund types. So you can see across the top, those are different types of funds. We always talk about whether we're using circuit breaker, or we're using grants, or we're using federal grants. Federal grants would be like the ESSER ones, city town appropriation, and then school committee appropriations. So just so you know the difference of that, when you see those two columns, column 1 and column 2, column 1 is money that was appropriated by the town that had to the school committee, so the school committee had the authority to spend it. Column 2 is money that the city or town spent towards the school directly. Okay, so a lot of times what those are things that are included in our chargeback agreement. So a lot of times it's parts of people's salaries, it's insurances, it's retirement contributions for Town of Clinton retirees, those types of things. So you can see those different things. And then if you go to the third page, you can see that first column, the number is going to be, that was what our approved budget was when we went through the process, $25,093,671. But you see, in addition to that, really towards school, the town spent another $8.4 million. A lot of that, like I said, it's insurance, that's retiree insurance, that's retirement contributions, that's portions of salaries, that's our whole facilities department now, because it's not appropriated to us. And then you can see what we spent on like federal grants. A lot of that was probably, those are like our Title I, ESSER, those types of grants, and those different things. So that just kind of gives you a sense of sort of what we spent, and you can see how it all breaks down by the line items. The next one is a FY22 net school spending, and all this does is this just shows that really, if you look at our total between qualified education expenses, right? So there's certain expenses that count towards school spending and some that might not. So our net school spending, we spent the town, city, the school committee and the town, so locally appropriated money was $30,928,000. We were required for our net school spending to spend at least $26,800,000. So we exceeded net school spending, which is the expectation, right? You're supposed to be over net school spending to qualify for your Chapter 70. And it's important to note that we were a little bit over net school spending because that amount is going up as well. So we talk about the Student Opportunity Act and we talk about Chapter 70 money coming. Another part of that is net school spending goes up. And I remember when this first started and I kind of talked about it with the selectmen and everything, we did sort of show this, that we are above net school spending right now. So even when they raise our net school spending, it's not like we're going to have to all of a sudden come up with $2 million extra for the schools. We've got this, $4 million cushion that's in there right now that it would be eating up. FY23 budgeted net school spending. So this is the same thing. This kind of just looks at what did we budget in FY23 just to make sure that we are on track to meet net school spending. Once again, it's very similar, but you can see how much it went up, right? So our net school spending in FY22 was $26,800. our net school spending requirement in FY23 was 29.9, right? But our actual expenditures went up to 33. So we still have that cushion, but you can see how our net school spending is going up that they're requiring us. But we still, based on our budget amounts, we should be fine for net school spending. And then I think it's the last one in here. No, this next one, it's just showing you, it's just comparing a few years. It shows you what we were in FY20, what we were in FY21, and FY22, and then the change between 21 and 22. So this was just sort of a comparison broken out by the line items there. And then, so there's a few pages of that. And then it's very similar for the next one, except it includes the FY23. So looking at basically the budgeted versus the last year. So just some snapshots of the of where we are. I don't know if anyone has any questions on the annual report. I would say that the annual report is very complicated and involves a lot of things behind the scenes. I'd say Annette Cologne is the one that really is the workhorse in this. That gets most of that information together, and she works very closely with the town because we have to work with the town to make sure we're reconciling all these accounts, to make sure that, you know, we're saying we spent this much on this fund, and it cross-reference it with the town, and they say, yep, that's what we have as a match. So there's a lot of detail that goes into this. We submit this to the state, and then this is also kind of looked at when we have our audit. So, any questions? Okay. Annette also asked me for, we need to transfer some funds here. So there's a memo in there about trying to transfer $3,431. So what happened was there was a class, I guess for the class of 2025, they had started doing some Washington, D.C. fundraising and then didn't have a Washington, D.C. trip. So there was money in the Washington, D.C. account that didn't really get used, but it belonged to that class because they were the ones that raised the funds. So what we'd like to do is, which we're allowed to do with school committee approval, is to transfer these funds basically from the DC trip revolving account or student activity account to the CHS class of 2025. So basically giving this money to the class that raised the funds.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Any questions, discussion? All in favor?
Thank you. It'll help clean everything up and make sure those kids get the money they deserve. Quick, there's two grants in here. One, we were awarded an early college planning grant. So even though we're offering early college courses at this time and we're partnering, we don't fully have what the state would call an early college designation. So that's what we're working towards. So this planning grant is a step towards working on that. So we're hoping that by the completion of this grant, we will be able to get the formal early college designation. And part of the new sort of consortium we're working with for our early college classes, most all of those schools already have that designation. So we're just we joined the consortium a little late, so we just kind of got to go through this process. But it is a $44,000 grant that we were awarded to keep working in that direction. And the next one, Mr. McGuire at the high school was awarded $2,500 from the State Treasurer's Financial Education and Innovation Fund to support a Credit for Life fair in our community. So they'll be working on that one, and I know the State Treasurer's office must have really wanted to get that information out because I think it was in the item last week. So I just want to keep you informed. And then we have the FY24 budget timeline. So we did have an admin meeting today where we were kind of just checking in on that. You know, we've already done a staffing survey to try to get some preliminary idea on, you know, if and when Staff members are retiring, if anyone's kind of requesting a transfer, people who plan on trying to, they know they're going to graduate and move on the salary scale. So we had that preliminary data already. And then we have started getting, the principals have started getting our budget request forms out and talking to their building leadership about putting together their requests for supplies and curriculum materials and the things that they're going to need. So in the next couple weeks, the principals will be sort of building their budgets within their building by gathering those teacher requests. And I'll be working, kind of looking at projecting the staffing and salary costs for next year. And the business office will be working on some of those other operational things like electricity and those types of things that we need to project, transportation, looking at those contracts. So we'll be building that budget. And once we come back from the breaks, that week right after, I'll hold individual meetings with all the principals and directors where we'll review what they've compiled, and the business office will be with me, Mr. Frado and Ms. Colon, and we'll start just building the budget. And then our goal will be to present a draft of the preliminary budget at the school committee tri-council meeting, which we've been doing in the past. That's like we said, that's a draft budget that a preliminary budget that we always put out there, and then when we start getting more of the revenue information in terms of what's Chapter 70 look like, what's our grants look like, then we can start sort of making reconciling the two. Any questions or concerns with the budget timeline? All right. So those are pretty much our financial updates. We do have a technology update. Before I have, while Mr. Tahan's coming up, I did have the sheet in there from our strategic plan on technology again, and I think if you look at it, it's kind of amazing that we were projecting to try to get grades 6 through 12 1-to-1, and we're 1-to-1 as a district. 50% instruction material budget to digital content. I'd say we haven't abandoned print content, but we have way more digital content than we ever had before, and we usually have them complementary. We have the digital aspects that go with our print, and so the teachers are definitely using it, especially if you look at consider things like Google Classroom and how they're using those types of things. And we do have one FTE at each school for instructional support, or for technology support now, kind of. That's if you count Chris and Christy here, but they get some other things going on, but they provide hardware and software support. And I think we have been funding, making the consistent funds in our budget, and we've talked about that a lot, knowing that in order to do this, we need to have a good, you need to have a refresh cycle, or you're just going to have a lot of paperweights in 4 years. So we've tried to been building up that line item as much as we can so that we feel that we're buying a sustainable amount of Chromebooks each year. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Tahan.
Yeah, so I'll actually, good evening, happy holidays. So actually, I'll start with that. About 4 or 5 weeks ago, we were awarded a $200,000 grant for student devices. So I expect those student devices to be delivered to central office by hopefully the end of this year, if not sometime in January. The best part about this grant is we're not the middlemen, so we don't get billed, we don't get invoiced, we don't see any type of financial transaction. It's all done through the federal government and our vendor. So it's fantastic. So it actually equates to 500 student Chromebooks. So we're very proud and thankful to receive that grant, and look forward to receiving those devices.
And what we've talked about is a little bit is when we're doing the budget process, we know we've got this infusion of these Chromebooks. So what we're going to look to do is to try to make sure that we don't want to zero out those hardware line items in a budget for next year, but we might want to look at what are some other areas that are deficient. So for example, we know that here for like our computer science and Project Lead the Way, they could use sort of a renovation of that computer lab, which some more higher end machines for what they're doing. So trying to maybe keep that hardware line, but instead of it just being Chromebooks, since we got this grant, it might fill some of those other gaps.
Absolutely smart. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, fantastic news. And I'm also going to piggyback on Mrs. Quist. So we did have a successful, I believe, successful end of Q1 at Clinton High School this past November. So grades did close at the middle school and elementary school last Friday. So as she mentioned, there were a lot of anxious teachers. It's a whole new system. So their job over the next week or so is to go in and post grades and comments, and then eventually those will be published for the parents and guardians to see and to review. So there was a video that was created kind of step by step. There was an additional presentation that was sent out today to the staff at both schools. And obviously Christy and I and our building coaches are available to help support the end of their successful trimester 1. Since we last spoke also with Infinite Campus, we were able to finally complete integration with eSped, which is our special education data warehouse, and a program called Elevation, which is used with our EL students. So that's now fully functioning. We were able to successfully submit some our SIMS data, our EEO5 data. One is federal, one is state. So that was successful both in October and the end of November. We have EPIMS coming up in December. Some other things we're looking towards, online registration. It's hard to believe, but our K registration is going to begin in the next 6 to 8 weeks. So that's going to be completely online through Infinite Campus. And then scheduling for our high school and middle school. Actually, we'll start sometime at the end of January, beginning of February. That includes teacher referrals and course requests and all of those types of things. I'd say overall, I'm pleased. I think that the effort with our entire staff and students and parents has been tremendous. I think the overall comfort of the system, we've seen it obviously grow from when we kind of opened it up at the end of August, and now that we're here at the beginning of December. Less and less people are kind of using that fallback with our old SIS and going into Infinite Campus and looking at the data. And so I'm very pleased for how well I believe it's gone. And I'm hoping, by the end of this week, we'll have a good handle on grades closing for the elementary school, middle school, and look forward to the second semester of the year. Any questions? No? Second item, website. So we've been talking about this since I started here. So we have it. It's in the can. I was going to publish some screenshots, but I said, screw it. I'll surprise everybody. And I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but so when I wrote this, I don't know if you have the report that I wrote, but I said it would be published on or around January 1st, 2023. So I did get feedback since then. So it's going to be either that Friday or that, I'm not sure it's like everyone's going to wake up the first day of, when we come back, and it's probably going to be published before then, but hopefully maybe nobody goes to it until the students come back to school. So Christy and I were in the process of just making sure there's no dead links or during the conversion, this information might have just gotten kind of combusted or mushed together. So, but it looks great. I think it looks great, and something Dr. Meyer and I talked about, that I don't know if it's going to be some sort of form or an email, but feedback is welcome, because the school website is thousands and thousands of pages of information and school committee minutes that probably go back the last 5-10 years and this and that. So if there is something we missed, please share that information with us, because it certainly is not only a tool for our existing students and parents and staff, but even incoming students as well, looking to possibly enroll here in Clinton. Some ongoing projects. So backup HSIA. So it's not really ongoing, but we did have an outage in November where we lost our main line. And without those backup lines at the high school and middle school, both those schools would have been dark for about a day and a half. Because we had those backup lines. It wasn't perfect because there were a lot of little configuration changes that needed to be made kind of in real time, but those buildings were, instead of being out all day Monday and half the day Tuesday, and that includes not just internet, but phones and copiers and security systems and everything else, we were able to kind of bring those things back up within an hour, and then kind of muddle through the rest of it to make sure that things like printing and scanning and things like that would kind of come back online, which they did. So very happy about that. Security, so we have some, I know she probably doesn't believe it, but at the elementary school, we ordered cameras over the summer, so they're scheduled to be installed over the holiday break. We have a few cameras also going up at the high school. Print servers, just right now, everybody can see every printer in the district. We're kind of trying to isolate those, not a huge thing. Increasing our bandwidth over at the field house, so there were some huddle cameras installed, which I know Mr. Farakis was a part of. So it is physically installed and ready to go here in our gymnasium. It is physically installed over at the field. Obviously, there's not a lot going on in the month of December over the field, but it is in action in our gymnasium. It's actually really, really cool to see what technology. So
That's great.
Yep. Budget FY24, Dr. Meyer briefly talked about it. Again, we're focusing on all the major things, student and staff devices, some Project Lead the Way upgrades, upgrading our bandwidth over at the field house, specifically for that huddle camera, and kind of just working through the lead times on a lot of these things still are 4, 5, 6, 7 months out, so it's really hard to kind of wait till July 1 to make some of these orders, especially with classroom projectors and visual displays, because we learned it the hard way this year. We had people come in the first and second week of July and they're like, yeah, we'll get it to you in March of 2023. We didn't really have that option, so we're trying to work through some, to figure out how we're going to combat the supply chain issue, because we do have some definite needs in our classrooms to upgrade some of the visual displays, whether that's televisions or projectors in our elementary school or touch screens at our other buildings. So. And then security I have as well. That's both physical and digital security. I'll always put that in the budget just because it's just so vital. Again, not just the physicals, not just door access or security cameras, but some of the other things that we do to kind of try to keep our students safe while they're here in the building. And that's it. Any questions?
Chris, when the outage happened, did the postmortem of that outage give you any visibility into like things that we should be thinking about enhancing from a resiliency perspective or redundancy? Any learnings from that?
Well, there was a ton of learning. For example, like it was specifically at the middle school, but our incoming calls at the elementary school were knocked out because those trunks are located at the middle school. So not something we knew, but something we learned, right? So we ended up creating another VPN through our backup line that ran back to the elementary school. So things like that we learned. Again, I'd like to say it was hard and it was difficult and it was crazy and I would hate to relive it again, but now that we've kind of gone through it, we've kind of seen the things that did cut over right and then didn't so much, specifically that. Printers here didn't come back right away. Student Wi-Fi didn't come back right away. Those were some of the easier fixes, but like knowing that the SIP trunks for the incoming calls at the elementary school, I had no idea they sat at the middle school. So we found that out and rectified it and
Well, it gives us a list for like future investment if we need to have any, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Things like
yeah,
that.
absolutely. And like I said, if we didn't have those backup lines, the issue was out of our control. It was actually back at the data warehouse for our HSIA company. So, we would have been out for all of Monday and most of the day on Tuesday. So it was good to have them.
Great work, man.
Having fun.
We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, so for a facilities update, Mr. Farragher, I think he's heading to Florida to coach an all-star football team, so he's was unable to make it today, but he did include his report in here. So just, I don't have to, I guess I can skim through it a little bit.
No need.
But I know one of it is the, you can see the field house roof that is complete, so it's always nice when sometimes it feels it takes forever to get a project done, so when you can say this one's done, that's nice. That went pretty smooth. They're working on the HVAC repairs. We are working on trying to get we haven't forgot about the high school auditorium. You can still hear the buzz, right? So we're trying to, we did get a warrant article to work on that. It's a matter of just finding the we got I think we got a preliminary quote, and now we're trying to refine that to see what we need to do to like go out to bid with it. So I think they're working on it, but it's just a matter of, the problem is it's not as, you got to find the right people with the expertise to figure out how to fix the problem, so. And we ended up doing some baseball and softball field improvements, using some of the money from our rental facilities that comes from those fields. So I think that was completed, the infields were completed, and he's looking at some other things. So for FY24, he is researching sort of the cost of a facilities maintenance garage. The idea would be maybe we'd be able to sort of reshuffle things around and get rid of some of those storage containers that we have, and then maybe sort of repurpose the field house, so it's truly the field house, and then now if we need to store like track equipment, we have a place to store it in there, those types of things. But we'll see how that goes, and looking at potential warrant requests for grounds equipment, possibly for more HVAC repairs, although we are eligible for a grant. I believe it was just around $300,000 from the state grant, but I think it was federal money that the state got for HVAC upgrades. That was part of a thing. And you had a few years, it came out this year late, came out in like the end of October this year. So we didn't want to jump on it this year not knowing it. So there's like 2 or 3 years you have to apply for it. So we can apply for it next year. So we might be able to look, we might not need that warrant article if we feel that that grant can probably cover the needs. And then still looking at some of the, starting to really think about CES roof repair replacement. Not that that's like needs to be done right away, but talking about a building that's now going to be 20 years old, right? So you're starting to get that point where you're probably going to have to do a little bit of maintenance here and there. Repaving the parking lots. I know we're looking at around here at least. They're looking at a couple different options, but one of them is just could we just do the middle where it's really kind of torn up, kind of leave the parking spaces, but do the middle so you get the drains and everything fixed, and then maybe that one area that you can probably see when you drive around the building that floods all the time. And the same thing down at the elementary school, and just the ongoing just minor repairs for the grounds, fencing, that kind of stuff. And then he's got his completed and updated projects in there. And there's a lot. So, he's not here to share all his work, but I think Bry's been, Mr. Farragher, has been very responsive, and I think we're getting a lot of stuff done, and I think he works well with, whether it's with Mr. Tahan or whether it's me or the town in general. I think he works well. We don't get into those. The one thing I don't think, which was the vision, I think, of the department, is you don't get into any of those battles of like, well, is that a town thing? Is that a school thing? Is that a Parks and Rec thing? It's like, no, it's a thing that we need for Clinton, so let's just get it done. So I don't know if you guys have any questions for me or...
No questions, but just commentary around just how grateful we are between Chris and Brian and leveling up both of those departments, the amount of effort, visibility, the projects, the executed, punch lists. I feel like it's been a huge improvement for the past few years, and we're really appreciative of it. It's great work.
The next agenda item is just the middle school, the school building authority designer selection process. So I did actually go and I spoke at the selectmen's meeting last Wednesday to try to give them an update as well. I know that Tina was the representative at the meetings. We had a meeting with the MSBA on the last Tuesday, correct? And we had a few prep meetings before that with our OPM and with the MSBA themselves about how the meeting was going to work. So we did receive 6 responses to our RFP for the designers, which we were told by the MSBA and by our OPM that that's actually quite a bit. The recent projects might have only had 2 or 3 responses. So the fact that we got 6, and they said all 6 were pretty good ones. So the way the process worked was we reviewed each of those during that meeting on the 28th, and then we got to vote. We didn't, the 3 representatives that we had, myself, Ms. Sapantis, and Mike Ward, we we had some pros and cons, and we had some discussion with the OPM about who may or may not be a better fit, but I think it really was an authentic process. None of us voted the same way. We were kind of in the same area, but a little bit off. So we went and voted, and these are the 3 finalists. So there's proposals in here from LPA, Architects, Feingold Alexander, and Flansburgh. And what will happen is, I think the next one is December 13th, and we'll have an MSBA meeting on December 13th where we'll basically be an interview with these 3. And then we'll have another similar sort of debriefing with the whole MSBA selection panel. So it's like 10 of them and 3 of us. And then we'll vote again. And at that point, we will have a designer that we can begin to enter into contract negotiations with. We've scheduled our next building committee meeting for December 20th. So we're hoping that by December 20th, we can have the designer on board. And once we hit the new year, we'll be off and running with sort of figuring this out. Why did I give you all these pages? So these pages that are in here, these are, when we get these proposals back, they're thick books with all kinds of stuff in there. It's got, everyone who's going to be working on the project, where did they go to school, what projects have they worked on, all these things. But they're allowed 6 pages, 3 pages back and double-sided, to sort of get in more specifics about what they think about our project. So what I shared with you in this, these are like the 6 pages of the 3, so you can kind of see some of the things that they're thinking about, and I'll show you a little bit about what the process is going to be. Like, they're going to help do some of the visioning of this. They're going to do some of the community outreach, so we can try to figure out really what are we trying to accomplish in this building project, and then help kind of design a solution to match that, right? So. And then that'll help determine, they'll look at basic things. They'll look at, like we said before, they'll look at, what's it cost to just stay in the middle school and just pay ourselves to keep that building running around for 50 years? What might it cost to do some renovations or additions to that building to kind of make it more in line with what we're looking for and get increase the lifespan? Or what would a new building look like? And if a new building, what would it look like? Where would it be? A couple of them drew some preliminary sketches, and I was surprised, not surprised, I was pleasantly surprised that people kind of had that initial idea of making it close to the high school, where you could almost have, I think one of them had a nice word for it. They called it like an academic bridge between that school and the high school. And some of the advantages of that are, they're not going to pay for a auditorium in a middle school anymore. The MSBA just doesn't. You might get a little cafetorium, you might get a little stage there or something, but if you're connected, you can always just bring, you can walk your kids right over to this auditorium and we could access it. It will also help with, 8th graders taking classes, possibly sharing staff down the road if we need to, so that you could offer more electives and those types of things. So we're a long way from there, but we're moving along, and I know sometimes it gets quiet and people think like, whoa, what the heck's happening with this project? And there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but we're still sort of just going through that process of formulating the team and working with the MSBA. Any questions on where we are with that? All right. So the next thing in your packet is we got a lot of pages here. Fall athletics wrap up. So we had Athletic Director Smith go ahead and put this together. So we just tried to give a little blurb of each of the sports. Tried to highlight some of the things, the different awards they might have got, offensive MVP or all-stars. I think overall it was a pretty, successful fall season. With our football team making the playoffs, our field hockey program being the Milwaukee champions making the playoffs, even our, even watching our girls soccer program finish over in 500. Boys soccer was, I went and saw some of their games. They were entertaining. And then the golf and cross country are harder to go see, but but overall, I think it was a good, a strong fall season. We just wanted to recognize all these people, so we sent that out. One of the things we are going to do is we're going to send out a fall season, fall athletic season feedback form. It's just a little survey. It's very, very brief, very open-ended, so parents can share their feedback. But what we're going to do is we're going to survey, it's a survey that'll go to the parents of the student athletes who participated. So if your student was if your student was a student athlete in the fall, hopefully by the end of this week, you should receive an email either from my office or from, might come through our campus messenger system. That's what I'm hoping we can do. That's what we're messing around with right now, because we have the survey ready to go and we have the list. We're just working on the best way to distribute it to the right 270 people or whatever it was we had for fall athletes. So we should get that out one way or the other by, like I said, by the end of this week, hopefully by the end of tomorrow. But we'll see how that goes. And, we're going to try to use that. That's more just internally for us to sort of just, look at our programs and figure out what are some questions or concerns that come up. It could be anything from, it could be anything. It could be anything from, uniform concerns, who we play, buses, whatever it is. So we just want to get that feedback and say, how can we keep trying to improve? And then the athletics season, the winter athletics season, is now going. I think we've had a few scrimmages. I don't think we have any official game, official contests yet. We are offering our girls and boys basketball at the middle school JV and varsity level, boys and girls indoor varsity indoor track, winter cheerleading, and we have the co-op with Neshoba. We have co-op for boys ice hockey, swimming and diving and wrestling, and Algonquin for girls ice hockey and Hudson for gymnastics. So we need to co-ops. We need to get approved. So those ones are all approved. So there's plenty of opportunities there. And I know that obviously we had real good turnout for our boys basketball numbers. I know that they did have to make some cuts because of the interest. Girls basketball, I think we are looking at probably a waiver for our JV program. What's funny though is there's a lot of teams that are starting to just not have JV. There's a lot of participation. We're not sure why, but I know we were talking about it. It seems like the female participation in athletics is seeming to just sort of drop just the numbers, where a lot of schools we had the same trouble with certain programs like field hockey and stuff in the fall. Schools just didn't have a JV program. So
Steve, the waiver, that's so the 8th graders can play?
sorry, yes, that'd be so the 8th graders could come up so we could fill the JV team and when we could play. Our boys, our boys and girls track, our numbers are up. The boys, I think, have like 40 kids or something that are, and the girls, I think they're at 8 or 10, but that's more than they had last year. So, so it's good. So, I think there's a lot of opportunities out there, and it seems to be going along fine. Anyone have any questions on the athletics updates?
No, I would just say good for the waivers, because once you lose sports, it's very, very hard to get them back. So I think anything we can be doing to be creative and inclusive and bring athletes up into the high school program sooner, that's just good for us, because, again, once you lose programs, it's very difficult to get it back.
Yep.
So thank you for that.
I was told, Steve, and you kind of did for the track, the indoor track, that they kept it open, so if a student went out for basketball and was cut, they were allowed to.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah, because you don't want, if someone,
So that may be your numbers,
Right, they might come up a little.
They didn't have to make a choice before the cut.
The next one up there is Clinton High School midterm schedule. So what they're hoping to do is do a 2-hour delayed opening. Right now, it'll be January 17th through January 20th, but as you guys know, normally what we do is those dates might change if there's any snow dates, but since we're making a little change to the calendar there for the high school opening time, we normally try to get school committee approval. Everyone's okay with that?
Second.
Any discussion? My son's in favor. All in favor?
All right. We have 2 Europe trips, and so there's a trip that's scheduled for to go to Barcelona and Paris this April. Now, these are those trips that are kind of run through EF Tours, if you remember, and they're I guess they're school affiliated, but they're really run by the tour company, right? We're not putting, you're essentially, you're buying into the tour, but we send a school chaperone and they're school affiliated. And they occur over, typically as much of it as we can is over the April vacation, right? So it's not really, you're not really missing school for this trip. It's something you're doing on your own. So this trip on the 23rd, sorry, in 23, April, was, I believe it was initially brought up in like 2019.
Yep.
Before they started doing, so they could start doing their fundraising. So now, I just want to, review it and just make sure that the school committee is still kind of okay with that trip. I mean, we kind of approved it back then. I think normally if to do a final approval, we would come to you at some point and say, hey, we've got everything finalized, but they got their approval to do their fundraising, and which they don't really do much fundraising. They basically pay for it themselves, but they start making their payment plans and doing that stuff so they can pay for it over time. I know we're still in sort of a, where are we with travel restrictions and those types of things? I'm not as worried about this trip. It's a small trip. It's over a vacation, and it's basically run by a tour company. That is, there are plenty of resources if something were to happen. The other thing is now EF tours are refundable. So remember they had the issue when the very first year it happened, and we were trying to, how do we get these kids money back, and how do they do this? And I think they realized that just to stay in business, they needed to say, fine, if the trip gets canceled, then we'll give you your money back. So, so there's that trip. There's also another trip that we're looking into. They want to do one next year to Berlin, Prague, Krakow, and Budapest. Same thing, this is just to sort of present some of the information to see if they can start, setting it up so students can start payment. The one thing I would say, I'm not opposed to letting them start kind of getting the ball rolling on this. The only thing I said is that, you look at Krakow is pretty darn close to the Ukraine, right? So, I mean, you're talking a year from now, but really you are going next to a country that's at war, right? So, so now what do I think? I think obviously if that were the case and it was unsafe, then at that time, EF Tours would probably say, hey, we're not going to Krakow now, we're going to whatever, and they'll come up with a different city. So I don't think that's what I think is part of when you go with these tour groups, they're gonna do some of that stuff too. But that's just the only, that's the only hesitation I might have on this. So I guess, if the question is the school committee comfortable with us sort of sending our trip to Barcelona and Paris and allowing our students to start, putting their deposits down and trying to work towards their trip to Eastern Europe there, I guess it is.
For purpose of conversation, I'll make the motion to approve both.
Yeah.
So both approve the trip upcoming this year, as well as to allow them to start to look into the fundraising aspect, obviously determining itinerary at the time that's appropriate.
Yeah.
They're probably two separate motions, but because I think we'd have to check the minutes, but we already approved.
We approved them to
the
get
initial.
going with the one for this year in 2019, yeah. We originally approved that. Now, I guess you could probably go through the minutes and say then we probably voted in 2020 to suspend all travel that was out, and now so that's why we're bringing it back up, because now we're getting there and we're going, hey, we want to get on the same page here before we...
I'll second it then.
All right.
So-
Any other discussion, any questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman? So let me preface this by saying I think the opportunity to travel is invaluable, and I have no reservations about sending our students or even my own son on one of these trips. I do think I would like to be a little more clear on the line for our responsibility as a committee relative to the fundraising, relative to the responsibility, the legal responsibilities, because there are students, we're sending at least one chaperone, if not more, from our teaching staff, and I think it would be in our best interest to know what our responsibilities are relative to this sort of hybrid model where we're using a company that's an all-inclusive type company? That's my question. It doesn't change my opinion on the
I do agree that
the value of it.
that is a very gray area, and I would say that I've been in previous districts I was in, had a very clear stance on this, that it was pretty much like if you're going through a tour company, you're going through a tour company, and it is not a school-sponsored trip. Here, traditionally, we haven't been that, we haven't distanced ourselves from that, because we've also kind of tried to say it's sort of a school-sponsored trip, because if you're not in like good academic or good standing in the school, we don't allow you to go, right? So we can't have it both ways. We can't pick and choose who goes, but then say it's not school-sponsored, right? So, so we are sort of in that gray area. I mean, I could reach out to, I can't give you a definite answer right now on that,
No,
but before the trip happens, I mean, I could definitely reach out to our attorney just to kind of get a sense of, what's been the take on this, and really, and I think it's what's a good point to clarify, right? Because it's sort of like, let's say something does happen. Let's say someone does test positive for COVID and they're not able to get on a flight back. Is the whole trip staying there? Are we paying for a flight back? Is the tour company paying for a flight back? Is there an insurance policy for that? So it's just, and I don't think it necessarily changes whether we let them go or not necessarily, depending on the answers to those questions. But I think that we want to know what we're dealing with before we go.
If you get an outline from EF, I think it's pretty clearly outlined as to, we send 2 chaperones, we send the kids, they send a tour guide. Here's the itinerary, here's their responsibilities, here's their coverage.
Yeah.
I think if we seek a packet from the understanding to what Joel is saying, I think that'll clear up some of that. From a legal perspective, certainly you guys have every right to figure out from a legal perspective what that looks like. But line of delineation of responsibilities.
They're going to protect themselves.
Like,
They're going to make it
we're
very
going
clear.
because we're going to babysit these children as we
Yeah.
go. However, who's leading the tour? What does that come with? What's the resource? What's the coverage? I think that'll all be outlined by
Yeah.
EF.
Okay.
I think maybe the school committee members need to be chaperones. Sounds like nice trips to me.
I'm down. I was waiting for the Ireland one. Don't they do
I've been on a trip or two.
Ireland? Don't you go to Ireland every other year?
I don't know. I think it depends on what willing chaperones we have. You want to step up? No.
So do we still have criteria in order to be able to be eligible to go on the trip?
So I'm not sure exactly what the criteria is. I know for the Spain trip, it used to, I think it was only open to like students who had reached a
Level.
certain level of
3
Spanish.
or
But then I think,
Right.
then you had students who maybe didn't take Spanish, but they spoke Spanish. So I think they've kind of loosened over the years. So people can just, if they're willing to do that experience, they can. But I can get more of that information too if you want. I mean, I can have the actual advisors come to a meeting if you want. Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, that wouldn't be that bad idea. Yeah, just, the question, so like what says the students can pay $200 a month, does that stay in a high school account? Or does
No,
that
they
right-
go, that's what I'm saying. They go right to,
That's to
yeah.
Matt's point, then we start paying that money and find out that there's fine print that we didn't know about. Might
Yeah.
need to-
Well, that's what happened when the COVID trip got canceled, right? They've been making their payments directly to EF Tours or whatever, and then when it got canceled, they're like, well, no, it says right here, you can get a credit, or you can get 50% back, or whatever. And people are like, what? So they've since changed that now, so it's 100% refundable. Like I said, I think for their business model, they had to, or someone else is going to come do it, and people are going to be like, don't go with them. So,
And they're the most reputable around.
Yeah.
I mean, they do 11, 12,000 trips a year, those guys, so.
all right.
So, what's the pleasure of the board?
Well, I think the motion that I put on the floor was to approve both. Joel seconded, that was discussion,
Okay.
so, I mean,
I think so.
All right,
up to a vote, I guess,
all
Mr.
in
Chair.
favor, okay.
All right, so we approved the motion, so they're okay to go, but I will get more information for you too, and we'll try to see, at least since the Spain one's coming up, I'll try to get the advisors running those trip to come to a future meeting before they go to give you guys the details.
Perfect.
All right? All right, I well exceeded my limit, but I'm done.
All right. My first one over an hour, I don't know what to do. All right. Any from curriculum? I don't think anybody's
I don't think we had any meetings. It's the holiday season now.
I don't I don't see anything. All right, we've got nothing, negotiations, again, we're done, right? Good on that.
Yeah, and we had good updates from marketing, website perspective, facilities through Brian's report too, so I think that's good.
Yeah, some of those is
We got
overlap.
we got some updates there anyway, which is good.
Anything other old business? New business? Steve, you didn't forget anything? This is usually when you say, I got one more thing.
No, I'm good. I talked long enough tonight.
All right, I'll be walking out and have you stop me. All right, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?